What's up, everybody? Happy Whoa, That's Good Wednesday. I hope you're having a great week. But per usual, friends, it is about to get so much better because I have someone on the podcast today that I am not kidding. I have been anticipating this conversation for so long. We are making it happen. I have the one and only Letitia Wright on the podcast. Welcome to Whoa, That's Good.
Hey, Sadie, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. And, I was thinking about an intro for you. I was like, man, I could obviously drop the Black Panther note that, that's epic. And I could talk about Possum Trot, executive producing, I talk about all those things. But you know what is probably the biggest flex in our house is that you are the sound of the cat on Sing 2. That is the biggest flex in the Huff house for sure. So I think that's awesome. My daughter, Honey, is 3, and she doesn't know you, but she loves you from afar. And we're all big fans of your work, but also just who you are. And said this a little bit in the prayer we were just praying, but just that your story is such a testimony of God's goodness in your life. And I'm so excited for people to just hear your story on this podcast. I got to go down a rabbit trail of watching all these interviews you've done, studying for this podcast. And I've been so personally impacted and moved just watching your boldness, hearing your story. And it's really cool when I have guests on that just in the process of preparing for the podcast, I'm already so touched. And so thank you for the life that you live. I can't wait to dive into a conversation. But before we get into all the things, I have to ask you the question that every single person on this podcast gets asked first. And sorry to just drop this one on you, but Letitia, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, man. The best piece of advice I've ever been given was via a work colleague who's super close to me. She was just like, that I should keep my focus on God, no matter what, in the process of, growing and being in the industry. She was just like always, remain close to God. So that was given to me at a time that I was, developing my relationship with God. But it was just nice to see someone who's like a veteran in the game, pretty much a living legend, tell me, this is what you should do to keep going forward. And, I'm going to stay with that advice.
Wow. That's so good. And, it's so cool because sometimes I feel bad to drop that question, even though it's just a fun question. But it is a big question to ask, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? But why I ask it is because of what you just said. Like, when you hear someone who's been so influential, like yourself, you've been influenced to so many people. When you hear the best piece of advice they took to heart, and you see how it shaped them and molded them into who they became, it's so cool and just speaks to the power of our words, the things that the conversations we're having, the things that we're sharing, the things that we're planting in our heart. Like it makes you, who you're going to become. And it can be such a simple thing, like stay close to God, keep your relationship with God first. And to someone sharing that piece of advice, they might never know how God used that to help you stay on the right path. And so I love that was the best piece of your advice because you definitely see that weave throughout your entire story. So take us back to Letitia Wright before people knew who you were. What was life like growing up?
Oh, man. Life growing up. I'm from Guyana, South America. So I grew up in the countryside, actually. I didn't know that I was a country girl until I went back home after 15 years. And I was like, I'm from the city. And they're like, no, you're not. Like, you had chickens in the garden and cows. You're a country girl. So I was like, oh, shoot, I am. So I grew up like super simple, just rural area, just like close-knit family. Literally all of our family was in the same kind of like big yard, like everybody's house is on the same, walking distance. If I didn't like my mom's food, I would jet over there and be like, I'm going to grandma's house, I'm going to get what I want over there. So, just super humble living and just close-knit family vibes. And then I moved to London when I was 7, and that was a big culture shock for me. And then I kind of adjusted very quickly. I was just finding my way, as a young girl in England. And then I just grew up and then started to figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be in the NBA. That didn't happen. I thought I was going to be in the Olympics running. That didn't happen. Wow. And then acting kind of just found me one summer when I was watching movies. I was too poor to afford proper movies. So I was like downloading them off LimeWire. Shouts out to LimeWire. And I just started watching a bunch of films and started to be inspired. And I think that's when I felt like, you know, God's kind of like intervention started to happen with like me desiring to make people feel how I was feeling from those movies. And I just kind of found something at maybe 13, 14. I was like, oh, like I want to do that.
Wow.
And I just haven't moved off of it. I just stayed like diligent with it, and God has done his thing. So here we are.
That's so good. I heard you say somewhere that it was actually like Aquila and the Bee that really, you know, you saw that and something moved in you. What was it about watching that movie that made you go, I want to do that?
She looked like me, and it wasn't stereotypical. It was just a young girl trying to figure out her life and like be a spelling champion. Yeah. And I thought that was dope. And then obviously I saw Angela and I saw Lawrence Fishburne, and they were like, you know, great like father, mother figures, you know. So, Angela played her mom, but Lawrence was more like a father figure to her. It was just a beautiful story of a Black family, and I just was always impacted by it. And then I just wanted to make people feel like that. I wanted to use my talent in that type of way. So I felt like God was like really dope in like putting that on my heart, so that I had like something to help me navigate the industry when it was time to be like, okay, what do you want people to feel? Because that's what's the most important thing. So that movie is super imperative to my journey. And it's funny because the person that actually gave me that advice years later was Angela Bassett. So about following, like keeping my eyes on God. So it's kind of like a 360, I think. Is it 360, Yasmin?
Yeah. No, that's so cool.
It's like a 360. Sometimes I'm like, is it a 180 or a 360?
I do that too. I always mess that one up. Hey, math, man. But no, I love math. We're talking spelling. We're not talking math. But no, I love that. I love that so much. I think that's so cool. It makes me think like, I love how you already just opened up by saying like, you saw someone that looked like you and it inspired you. And you were like, I want to be able to do that for people. And you've definitely been able to do that with the Black Panther. Like how significant is that to you that people, young girls, get to see themselves in you as a superhero that you are? Like, when did you realize the gravity of that? Did you always? Or was that something that kind of came after the fact?
It came after the fact, but I feel like, you know, in hindsight, now that I look back on everything, I pretty much manifested that with God. You know, what He placed in my heart by watching these movies, and like really at a young age, I'm very fortunate because sometimes people take a longer time to figure out their purpose. I feel like maybe being an introvert as a kid. I'm still an introvert right now. It depends on the environment, the people. I could be extroverted all of a sudden, and then you're like, who's this person? But I feel like being a kid that was super always reflecting and always like in my own world, God was able to deposit in me quickly my purpose, and I was able to listen very early on. And I'm quite grateful for that actually, because it kept me on that path. So everything that's happening or has happened in my life thus far is just a result of positive thinking, prayer, and manifestation of God's will. So it's like, it's if I'm honest, like I expected it, because I just was putting out that energy of what I wanted to be and what I wanted to contribute to the world and what I still want to contribute. Like now, you know, it takes on different stages and different phases. You know, I want to do more, but it looks different.
Yeah.
but that thing still guides me. So yeah, if I see a young person, super inspired, or like, after the fact, seeing how much young girls around the world felt empowered that a young girl was representing them in the world of science and maths and technology, and STEM, like I just felt like that was just something that was just dope. But again, is a part of my path. Like, it was inevitable that it was going to happen.
Wow.
Not in a cocky way at all, like super humble with it, but yeah, it was going to happen.
Summertime means vacations, traveling, and hitting the road with friends and family. When I get home from a trip, I love snuggling to my Helix mattress. It is always there to welcome me back and give me a great night's sleep in my soft, comfy bed. Helix is a premium mattress brand that tailors your sleep experience based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup includes 20 amazing models to choose from, and they'll even help you figure out which one is best for you with their 2-minute Helix sleep quiz. Helix has models with memory foam layers, other models with more responsive foam or enhanced cooling features, all the things you need to keep you sleeping comfortably all night long. And if your spine needs a little extra TLC, Helix literally has your back with hybrid designs of foam and coils to give the perfect combo of comfort and support. I took the Helix sleep quiz and I was matched with the Helix Midnight mattress because I wanted something that felt not too firm, not too soft, and I'm also a side sleeper, and so is Christian, so it was a really perfect mattress for us. I love the cooling effect that we have as well. If you get in our bed without the sheets, you can really feel how cool it is. So it definitely lives up to what it says. We also have one in our guest room. We even got one for a friend whenever they were getting married. So we are big time Helix fans. I know that you'll love your Helix as well, but just to make it risk free, they will actually offer a 100-night trial to try it out. So you can try it at your home, see for yourself how much your sleep game actually improves. Helix is offering up to 30% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. So go to helixsleep.com/Sadie. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Go to helixsleep.com/Sadie. No, I think that's amazing. It actually kind of makes me think of the story of David, how David was anointed to be king, but before he became king, after he was anointed, he was still shepherding, and then he was playing music. Like there was like this hidden time, and he was anointed in that time, but he was doing something different. And what God was doing while he was out shepherding, what God was doing while he was playing for Saul, was preparing him for the things to come. And so, yeah, not in a cocky way, but when Goliath is, going against God, he steps in and he's like, who's going against God? I'll fight him. I'm prepared for this. I'm ready for this. I fought lions and bears and killed them with my own hands. Not in a cocky way, but that's what God did through me. That's what God anointed me to do, is to defend him, is to glorify him. And so when the time came, he got to step in, and, to no one's surprise necessarily, he was king because he was anointed, but it was surprising because he had been a shepherd boy. And so your story actually reminds me a lot of that. It's like, you're chilling in the countryside with some chickens and some cows and great family. You moved to London, you have this heart for acting, and, God was speaking stuff to you that whole time. And maybe you realized, maybe you didn't. It seems like you did. And then when it was time to step in, even though it's surprising because it's such a big thing, it's not, because it's what God had already been working on and crafting in your heart, which I think is just amazing. I heard somewhere you were talking about, like, I think it was like you were playing the drums or something, like you were inspired by, it was like Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or something random. Like whenever you were young, like you just started playing the drums, you're like entertaining. When you look back, even though you were an introvert, do you see that like entertainer gift or entertainment gift like on your life? Like, did your family see that in you? Were there signs at a young age?
That's a good question. I feel like, it came up in its own little way. Definitely in the entertainment type of area. Like I was always into like watching American TV, and like, definitely, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys have a dear place in my heart. They helped me to like, express myself as a kid. So, I feel like, your personality kind of shows, who you're going to be in the future. So I feel like, like, I don't know if my family was just like, she's going to be an actress. I don't think that was like the thing, but they just knew that my personality was quite interesting. You know, there's like, you know, they just knew. Yeah, they just knew.
No, I think that's cool because I think sometimes like you have such a secure idea of what your purpose is. And it seems like you always kind of had this like draw towards purpose in life. Like you're saying, like from a young age, I was fortunate enough to know my purpose. And so many people freak out about that word purpose, like trying to figure out what my purpose is, what I'm purpose for. But I think you find a lot of your purpose in your personality traits. Like what makes you excited? What makes you come alive? What makes you go like, oh, I want to step into that. I'm capable of doing that. Those things like pay attention to, because it's probably going to lead you to those things that you're purpose to do. And so I just think that's really interesting. Okay, so you know, you got started into acting and you started doing, you know, pretty big things. This is all before Black Panther. You started doing pretty big things and then you took like a hard time out. So tell us a little bit about just the start of getting into acting. Was it a quick success? How did that work? And then when did you go, all right, time to actually tap out, and why?
Yeah, so the journey of acting is pretty much, you know, doing it at 12 for fun because a teacher says you should come and, you know, check it out. Bless her heart, because that was, you know, God using her to kind of like put the pieces together. And then, yeah, like maturing a little bit more at 15 and like, yeah, like 14, 15 and like really taking it seriously. But all the while from like 12 up to like 19, I was always going to acting classes, whether it's part-time, whether it's, you know, for a week, whatever it was, I was always tapping into acting classes because I understood the importance of like learning your craft and like developing and growing. I was like pretty much obsessed with it, studying actors, studying their films, doing auditions at home, pretending that I was, you know, being sent an audition from one of like the biggest agencies in the world. Like I was borderline delusional. But I knew that God knew my heart. Like he just knew that I was like willing to work for it. I wasn't thinking that it's just going to happen overnight. So it didn't happen overnight. It was years of grafting, years of like no's, years of like feeling a little bit insecure. Like, am I going to make it? But just that confidence and that purpose just setting in and just believing that I could make a difference and that I will be the one to do it. So it then started to transition into, you know, from preparation and like, or preparation and working on my craft to going to auditions and trying things out and seeing the type of material that was out there. Like very early on, I could see that there were like scripts given to me that I was like, this is not it. Like, this is not what, it doesn't align. And I remember one time I even asked someone, I was like, have you seen Aquila and the Bee? Because that's what I want to do, you know? But it wasn't that I wanted to do that specific type of, like that movie in itself or copy it. I was chasing the way the movie made me feel, which was inspired.
The inspiration.
Yeah. So that just following that path and staying diligent, you know, there's ups and downs in the journey that people don't see. They never will see because they never went through it with me. But lots of no's, lots of trial and error, lots of sending my CV to agents and casting directors and getting no reply because they don't know who you are. It's not their fault. Just lots of learning stuff that I did pretty much on my own because I don't come from a family that have experience in acting or the entertainment industry. So there's a lot of like figuring it out by myself and trying to believe in myself. And then everybody's kind of like, I hope this works out because we don't know how to help. But they can only help with love and encouragement and like, you know, money to go to acting classes. And then eventually it just started to solidify a little bit more with more roles, TV roles here and there. And then it just started to grow and progress. And I think along the way, I just kept trying to use my purpose and use the thing that I wanted to live for in terms of like my talent to guide me on how to choose those roles. And then it became a little bit more, like, it became better when I actually like teamed up with God. Like, honestly, like I was like not with God all the time. Like I was, and when I say God, like when I say that, I mean like a proper like relationship where I can literally pray to my Father and be like, God, like I need help, or how do I do this? How do I navigate that? You know, what do you want me to do? I was kind of like doing it on my own. Like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And things were happening for me, but I was never satisfied. And then eventually I kind of just had to do it to a certain point and then take a break, because I understood that it was affecting my mental health, and also it's making me, it had too much control over my emotions. Like, acting wasn't a thing that I saw as a just straight contribution and my purpose. And I was seeing that, but also it was like, I was so hard on myself if I didn't achieve the things that I wanted to achieve in a time that I set it in. I was really going off of my own timeline. And God kind of put a stop to that in like 2015. I just felt like this thing was just like, stop. And I just did something that not a lot of people was happy with at the time, which was like give up some roles. I was booked to do some projects, you know, some really dope projects with high profile actors. And I was like, I can't really do that right now because I don't feel happy. So I had to just stop it and just figure out what was going on. And it took like maybe like a year, close to a year, just figuring it out. Became a Christian, just fell in love with Jesus, honestly. And then just in prayer, God was like, you should go back to acting. And I was like, I don't want to go back to acting because I feel like I'm happy here, I'm safe here. I can just me and my Bible and you. That's going to be all there is to it. And then I just felt like God was like, nah, like you can step back into it because I'm with him. Like, he's the one that's guiding me. So I won't worship this thing in the way that I did before. And even if I have moments, and there is moments where it feels like it's tipping over, where you're putting acting above God a little bit, there's always that thing to check you. And obviously, you know, we know that to be Holy Spirit, like just being like, yo, like what you doing, you know?
Wow.
So that's like
so good.
Kind of like where the journey's been.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but Honey is my picky eater. I've been like, what am I going to feed this child? And then after we went to Italy, I discovered I've just been cooking the wrong stuff. This girl loves pasta. So we have been cooking all kinds of pasta lately in the house, but no matter what I'm cooking, I love my Caraway home cookware. Their products are super cute, and I've been using them for a long time, even before they started supporting this podcast. Because guess what? Fun fact, my middle name is Caraway. So, you know, gotta support that Caraway. But Caraway cookware comes in all kinds of modern shades that fit any kitchen vibe, and they're made without any toxic materials like PFAS, PTFE, and other hard to pronounce chemicals that I am not going to go into. Caraway kitchenware's chemical-free ceramic coating means you'll feel confident that none of those shady materials will make it into your delicious dinner. Plus, Caraway's ceramic naturally slick surface makes for super easy cleanups and food that won't get stuck on your pots and pans, which I can appreciate, and so can my husband, because he is the dish guy and he always gets on to me for how sticky things get. So Caraway has been a lifesaver for us. So whether you're an experienced cook or just starting out, Caraway home cookware makes home cooking look and taste good. Over 65,000 people have given Caraway a 5-star rating. So you know there is a lot to love about Caraway. If you check out Caraway's colors, they have such good colors, because like I said, the aesthetics are beautiful, and they have this iconic line of the black ones, and they are so beautiful. Especially, some of you have actually probably seen my kitchen from podcasts that we've done, and I have a lot of black in there, and so I love them, and they look so cute in the kitchen. Like I mentioned, we have the same, you know, middle name's Caraway, this is Caraway, so I immediately liked the product branding. But then I started looking at the products, and they were so cute and so beautiful, and you know, you kind of want it to look good whenever you're cooking in the kitchen. It just, the aesthetic, it adds to it, right? It adds to the whole thing. And so I love how beautiful they are. And then also the non-stick and just the quality of the products without the chemicals. It really is just an all-around win. Caraway Home's internet famous cookware set comes with the saute pan, fry pan, Dutch oven, and saucepan, plus lids and storage. It is pretty much the ultimate kitchen setup. We did the math for you, and the cookware set will save you $150 versus buying the items individually. So this is definitely a win win. So if you visit carawayhome.com/Sadie, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive for our listeners, so visit carawayhome.com/Sadie and use the code Sadie at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. This story really is amazing. And I think it's one of those things where someone tells their story and you say it so nonchalantly, like, yeah, I felt the Lord telling me to quit. And so I quit. You said I just stopped doing it. But to put so much time into something for that many years and then actually finally get to what you've been working for that long. And you have this opportunity with some really big names and a really big opportunity to be casted in. And then you go and you have to actually tell your agents, like, I'm not going to do this movie. And everybody probably is like, what the heck? Like, that's actually so hard to do. It's probably easier to just reflect on the story and say it. But when you really think about that, I mean, any of our listeners, you can relate. If you've been working years and years for something, you finally get the opportunity to do it. And then God's like, stop. Like, would you actually be willing to stop? But I love how you said I wasn't happy. And it makes me think of that verse that says, like, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world, but he forfeits his soul? Like, what does it mean if you get all the opportunity in the world, but you don't do what you're purposed to do? You don't do the thing that, it's not actually fulfilling. It's not actually causing, it's not actually what it's even purpose for. Like, acting, it was supposed to be fun. It was supposed to be good. It was supposed to be what you love. And if it was stealing from that, then what does it mean if you're getting these big parts? And so you had to have this hard reset. I know I keep comparing these stories to Bible stories, but I think if your life is compared to these Bible stories, you're probably doing something right, for sure. So I think this is a compliment, but it makes me think of how, like, Peter's going about doing his thing with Jesus, and then things get really tough. And then Jesus, dies on the cross for those 3 days. Peter's back fishing. Jesus comes back and meets with Peter, and they have this one-on-one conversation over breakfast. And Jesus is like, do you love me? And he's like, yes, Lord, I love you. And then he's like, feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, Lord, feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, Lord, feed my sheep. And basically he's setting up their relationship before Peter's ever going to go do anything for him, right? For him and the things that he was about to step into. And then, shortly after this moment, Jesus goes back to heaven. Peter gets filled with the Holy Spirit, and then he starts doing ministry at a level he was never doing it before. The guy who used to be scared and had, was falling in the water because he was scared and his faith was shaky, or the guy that denied Jesus, like, he has all these fear problems. And now in Acts, it says that Peter was, like, known for his boldness. Like, hello, the dude who was always known for kind of his fear and his lack of faith is now known for his boldness in his faith. And that came after establishing a relationship with Jesus and being filled with the Spirit. And, your life is similar. You look at it and you're doing all these things, and they're good things, and you're working hard, but you're like, it's just not right. Like, I don't feel happy. My mental health is affected. I'm so hard on myself. It's lost the joy. It's lost the purpose. So let's time out. Let's get with God. I love you, God. And then you're like, I don't even need it. I don't even actually want it because this is more fulfilling. And God's like, well, no, like, I actually did put this in you. Like, this is a gifting on your life. This is something to walk into, but this time it's going to be different because I'm going to be leading and because the Spirit's going to be in you. And I can relate to your story because I think for a long time, I was like running into the things and I'm like holding God's hand behind me being like, come with me, God, like bless the way. But it changes everything when God gets in front and you're not just trying to like bring God into these things, like you're walking behind him, like led by him in these things. And so it's so cool. But I love how when you came back to acting, like you did come back different. Like you came back so filled with faith. And I heard the story about when you got the opportunity to audition for the Black Panther. And before you even, had the job, you knew that you had it. And so can you tell that story a little bit about just your confidence in your faith and even your confidence in hearing the voice of the Lord before it was on paper?
Yeah, no, you said all of that so beautifully. I should just soundbite that and send that to everyone to be like, this is my story.
That's cool.
It was a season where, everything happened pretty quickly, but I felt like it was happening in the way that it needed to. So, 2016, I was already like in my groove of just like, it's just me and Jesus. Like I remember one of my friends asked me, she was like, so what's next for you, like with acting? Because obviously acting, when you're in the acting world, everybody, the what's next
What's next?
question is
Yeah.
so jarring. It's like, what are you doing next? I'm like, at home praying. What are you doing? And like, good luck with that. But yeah, she asked me and I was just like, I don't know, but I'm really excited. That's all I said to her. I was like, I don't know, but I'm really excited. And that same year I got baptized, and, just everything that could happen happened.
Wow.
Everything that could happen happened. Just everything. Yeah, God was just like, just fill her on up before she goes out there. And then, yeah, I just felt like I was auditioning, I was booking parts. It felt like it was just me and God, like in these auditions. Like, what do you think about this part? What do you think about that? And it was going great. And then I was on a particular job called Humans, and I was very satisfied with it. And I thought when I finished, I was just going to go back to having Jesus time. And then this audition came through, and it was quite secretive. But then I think my agent at the time, he kind of was just like, I think it's Black Panther. And I was just like, oh, like, okay. I didn't really know the hype of it. I'm going to be honest with you. I knew about Marvel films, but I was so in my own world. Like I didn't have the chance to be like, Black Panther. I was kind of like, okay, like, I just looked at the role. I was just looking at the character, and I looked at the page, and they had like this different name of the character, and she was challenging. She was having a kind of like debate with her mother about power, and that as a woman, she should be able to fight for the throne. And then her mom was going back and forth with her. I just liked the power in this girl, in this woman on the page. And I was like, this seems dope, Lord. Like, this seems cool. And I just focused on that. Honestly, I just focused on that. So I did my audition and sent the tape, and I just left it. I did like this, my ritual of just doing it, praying and leaving it. And then God just kept bugging me every time I would go to prayer. It's like bugging me. And I'm like, why are you bugging me about this? Like, I've done the audition. I don't know if I've got it. Like, it's not my business. It's your business. Like Matthew 6:33, mate. Seek first the kingdom. It's not my problem. If you wanna add on something, I was like, literally, like, if God is to replay like my conversations with him, it would be actually hilarious. I was like, that's your problem, mate. Like, you're the one that's adding on. I'm the one that's just seeking.
I love that. Wait, that is like the best. I hope everybody takes that up, because that is so real. There are so many times you're praying for something and then you're like, what? God, it's on you. Like, this is totally on you. And so I love that. I'm just the seeking. That's good. That is good.
Yeah, man. No, it freed me. That scripture actually was the thing that I felt set me free from like anxiety and stuff. And it's funny because even when I feel anxious now, because remember that there's different levels to your faith. Like the faith that I had back in 2016 is not the faith that I have now. It's different. I've gone through life. I've gone through experiences.
Yeah.
It's a new chapter. It's a new anointing of strength that I need. So when that scripture comes in front of me now, I'm just like, I know you said that I gotta seek, but I got some stuff going on. And it's just the challenge and like the beauty of stepping into that in this new level of my life. The scripture stays the same and the scripture is still as powerful, but it's just the weight of it next to the challenge is the thing that helps you to go from level to level. So that's what I'm discovering. But at that time, Matthew 6:33 was just like a walk in the park for me. I was just like, oh my God, I don't get to worry. Watch me test you. I was like, I'm gonna test you. I was like, okay, you say not to worry. Okay, cool. So I was just like on that vibe. And then he just kept telling me to pray about it. And I just wanted to be obedient. So I was just like praying about it. I was like, all right, cool. Like, God, this Black Panther thing, at that time, I think I had like another audition. They asked me to do like another tape and I had sent it. And then here he comes bugging me again. So I was like, okay, whatever this is, I just give it to you. And if it's meant to be for me, like, let's do it. okay, I hear you. Like, and then I just literally got this download, and it was just like, you're going to get called to go to LA. You're going to do some type of filming in LA. Just giving me like hints in prayer. I was literally, you know, on my little prayer carpet at the time, just praying, and just like, okay, this is what you said.
Fam, let's talk about something that's more important than ever, protecting ourselves and our families in the digital world. From social media to apps to streaming services, there are a ton of ways to be led astray on the internet. Guarding our hearts and minds as well as the hearts and minds of our loved ones is a challenge that we all face, but I'm so thankful for Covenant Eyes, a software that's changing the way we approach online health and safety. It provides accountability and filtering for all of your devices, helping block harmful content and encourage healthy online habits. That focus on accountability is really what sets Covenant Eyes apart. By partnering with a trusted friend or family member, you'll receive reports of your internet activity across all of your devices and open up a space for honest conversation, support, and healing. Now, I know that can be scary, okay, because you're opening it up to someone else seeing, but that's really the key, you know, bringing someone to help you get past those addictions that you're facing or those hidden things in your life that no one knows about. Invite someone into that. I know it's hard, but man, that is the first step towards freedom. So whether you're a student, a spouse, a pastor, Covenant Eyes empowers you to make wise online choices and stay true to your values. So if you're ready to take control of your online experience and protect what matters most, then I highly encourage you to check out Covenant Eyes. Visit covenanteyes.com/Sadie and you can try it for free for 30 days. Again, that's covenanteyes.com/Sadie to try it for free for 30 days.
That was like maybe like August, like late July into August. And then by, you know, at some point, you know, between August and September of 2016, I got this call and it was just like, hey, like, they're calling you back. And I was like, okay. And they're like, they want you in LA to do some screen tests. And I was looking at God like, huh? He's like, I told you. He's like, get ready. So I was like, bet. So I started to get ready for that audition. And then I realized that the audition would be with Ryan Coogler and Chadwick Boseman. So I was preparing for it. And at the time I was getting this massive attack on my anxiety. Like out of nowhere, I had this mad anxiety attack. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I had to keep drinking water because like my stomach was just like feeling like really, I just felt like it's just a massive attack. Like honestly, the thoughts in my head was like, don't go, like, don't get on the plane. This is not for you. You should just stay home. This is too much all too soon. Like, but I just kept reading the script. I just kept studying the lines and I just kept praying. And I was so nervous, you know, really anxious. And then I got on the plane. I was reading these little books that my friends gave me about peace and stuff and anxious. I just remember just feeling really like, what is going on? Like, I'm not desperate for this.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to just do a good job. Like, I'm not worshiping acting anymore. Like, why is this feeling like this? But, you know, I felt like the enemy knew like what was about to happen in my life. And just like anxiety attack on my thoughts and stuff started to happen. And then the second I landed in LA, it all went away.
Wow.
And then I met Ryan. And that day I remember just like yesterday, I met him and it was like meeting like a big brother. And then I met Chad and I was just like, and then God was just like, that's your brother. I should just love him as such. Like he's your brother. And I just remember that just looking at him like, oh, this guy's my brother. Like I don't know him from there, but I'm just going to love on him. Wow. And I literally just vibed with him and our audition was just next level. Like I actually need to ask Marvel for that audition tape. Actually, I'm going to text one of my producers today and ask him for that. Because like in the audition, like, you know, we were talking and then I put my hands on his chest and then he just wrapped his arms around it. Remember, I've never met this man in my life. But he was talking about leaving to go and like fight a battle. And then as his little sister, I was like, I want to fight with you.
Wow.
And then I just put my hands on his chest. I don't know what made me do that. And then he just wrapped his hands on it and he just kind of just like held it there. I'll never forget that moment. And then in between, like, you know, the audition, like we were just talking in the corner. He was teaching me how to do some like tricks and stuff, like fly. He was learning like martial arts and stuff. I just felt so peaceful around him. I was just like, that's my brother. That's my brother. I was like, I don't care whatever they say. Like, that's that guy. Like it felt like a spiritual connection. It felt so God ordained, like I can't describe it. And then I went to Venice Beach after, and I just sat and I just gave it to God. I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna give it to you now. It's the first kingdom. But I'm not gonna lie, like after that, I just kept thinking about it, and I just had to keep praying, letting it go, praying, being like, if it's your will, like if I just had to go through that experience to just activate my faith a little bit more, then bet I'll take that. But if it meant that, you know, yeah, like that was all there is to it, I'll just, you know, be content. But then, yeah, eventually they called me again. They're like, come to Atlanta. I was like, what the? I was like, that's not in the plan. Where's this Atlanta place? I'm not going there. I was like, fine, I'll go to Atlanta. Not knowing that I had already gotten the part. So,
wow.
But I felt in my spirit like God confirmed, like, yeah, this is for you.
Wow.
But I just felt like this extra bit. I was like, what are you doing? Like, there's no extra parts. I should be getting the call to get the role.
Wow.
And then it was just like another like confirmation screen test. And I remember, like, you know, years later, I'd find out him saying to them, like, guys, like, I know you're auditioning other people just to make sure, but that's my sister, like, wrap it up.
Wow, that's so cool. God was putting it on their heart as well. And that's like the coolest thing. Because when it's like a God thing, you start to see how the body of Christ comes together, like the family of God. Like it's normally not just on your heart. You know, God's like putting it on other people's heart too. And then you start, like your mind's blown because you're like, whoa, I'm not the only one in on this plan, God. Like there's so many people that have to make this happen. And you've been putting it on their heart and giving them this word or this feeling or this nudge. And so like that is the coolest thing. I have to say, like, your story is so amazing. Like, it's so fun. Actually, when we cut out for a second, my team was like, hey, you're leaning forward. Do you want to lean back? I was like, I can't lean back. I'm so into the story. I keep like finding myself leaning forward because I'm just loving hearing the story. But even beyond the story and what you're saying, I hope people realize even just some of these things, like how you talk to God is inspiring. Like, you're so real with God. And I think that's whenever God becomes real to you, when you get real with God. Like, when God says something to you and you say, bet. Like, when you talk to God, like he's actually your father, things get real. You know, when you said to God, like, God, I'm doing the seeking part. You got to do your part. Like, that's just real. That's what a relationship looks like. And so I'm learning so much even from that. And hearing your story of meeting Chad and just y'all's connection is so beautiful. He was actually my number one favorite actor. I like love his work. And so obviously devastating whenever he passed, but to see you step in and carry on his legacy, not only his legacy and acting, you obviously just played the most beautiful role in Black Panther, but his legacy and heart and just like y'all's bond that you carried, that sibling bond, like God gave y'all something special, a connection special, so that you really could carry on the legacy, and you do it beautifully. And so hearing the whole backstory to that is just so cool. I know we're running out of time, but we have to talk a little bit about now this journey has led you into producing. I know you have a super big passion for producing, and all the Whoa That's Good listener fans are huge fans already of The Sound of Hope, the story of Possum Trot, because we got to have Bishop W.C. and Donna Martin on the podcast a couple weeks ago. One of my favorite episodes ever. They are the most genuine, incredible people ever. And so tell me a little bit about what made you fall in love with the story, and two, decide to be a producer on it.
So 2020 again is that little nudge of starting a production company. I think I got that nudge in Atlanta actually one time. But in 2020 it came together, you know. So I started the production company. The purpose of it was to make meaningful content with cinematic excellence. It's very simple. That's the signature of the company. And I just wanted to contribute. So in that time, when you're starting something, you don't know what you're doing. You still don't know what you're doing, but you're learning. So I just started to reach out to different companies. One of those companies were the team at Out of Order. So they were dope in like meeting with me. And I just asked them advice, like, how did you get started? How do you do this? How do you do that? You know, I just seek knowledge. And I try to seek knowledge from whoever's willing to help me with it. So they told me about Possum Trot. They told me that there's a script that they're looking at, and then I read it. I looked at the story. The script wasn't really where it needed to be at the time, but the story was super, super compelling. And it was about Bishop and Donna Martin and what they did and their community and their church community did to help children. And I'm an advocate for children. I feel like that's another aspect of my life that people don't really know a lot about. They used to see me as an actress and stuff, but my passion for kids in any area, any department, as long as it's to do with children and to help kids, I feel like that's the one thing that if I'm to leave everything behind, that's the one thing I wouldn't be able to not do.
Wow.
And it's to be an advocate for children. And that just really spoke to me. That story spoke to me. And then I just became an executive producer. I met Joe, I met, Rebecca, Josh. And then in 2021, we actually went to Possum Trot, and it was a beautiful experience. It was great. I got to meet them, see the family, see how their small seed of faith and dedication and sacrifice birthed a whole family. Like there's so many, this family tree has just extended so huge. So that really inspired me, got behind it. And honestly, really and truly, like I got behind it just, in spirit and prayer. At the time I was juggling like 5 films too. So I couldn't really be on the ground producing as much as I wanted to. So Joe and Josh and Rebecca, they just held down the fort and like just worked super incredibly hard. I'm so proud of them to bring this together, to find the right people to play Donna and Bishop, and just bring the team together, and I would give my input in the editing stages and go on set when I could in the reshoots and just be there and share love with everybody. But that was the journey of Possum Trot.
Cool.
So producing is something I love. I see it as an opportunity to contribute alongside my work, like to be behind the camera and, really allow for opportunities to be birthed, like to dictate who's going to be the HOD or who's going to be this. So you don't always have complete control over everything, because sometimes things start before you arrive, before you get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just the story of it. And
it's cool.
It's a story of love for kids. So that's what I cared about most.
It's so good. It's so cool. And it makes so much sense for you to be a producer, to have a heart for that, because since the beginning, your journey with acting was all about the heart. It was all about the inspiration. It's all about how it moves people. And so I can see how your voice in that is so powerful. And I have to tell you, it moved me because I literally cried for a solid 2 hours when I watched the movie. It was good is right. It was so unbelievably powerful. Me and my husband have talked so much about it. We've prayed so much into it. How can we help? How can we be a part? I mean, it's so much more than a movie. It is a true movement of God. I mean, it was, I don't cry in movies. I'm not a movie crier, but from about 10 minutes in till the end, I just could not stop crying because I was so moved. The Holy Spirit is just on that movie, like something I'd never seen before. But of course it is. It's so aligned with God's heart, and those people are so genuine. Having them on the podcast a couple weeks ago has moved people so much. And even one of our sponsors for the podcast signed up to give one of the kids from Possum Trot who's having twins a lifetime supply of diapers because they were so moved by the story. So like, it's just been so cool because people are like, how can I help? Can I give diapers? Can I, like, whatever you have, like, can I be a resource? And so I just am so grateful that you guys, that you got behind it and pushed that message out even further and had a part in the heart of that movie, because it was just so beautiful. Last thing I'll say, I could say so many things, but one thing I think is powerful throughout your story is that you were able to stand for your faith in the private moments where it was like God told you to stop. You went to your agents, you said, I need to stop. You took the time to do the things you need to do, and you stood for your faith in moments that were more private. And then I watched this moment of you winning an award. I think it was like Upcoming Actress of the Year, something like that. What award was that you won? You probably won many, but
was I in a white suit?
Yes.
Oh, this is a prestigious award. This is the BAFTA, winning a BAFTA. It's one of the biggest awards in the UK. It's like
It's like the second thing to an Oscar.
I mean, it was epic. You looked amazing. You always look amazing. You were crushing it, fit, all things. You get up there, and the first thing you say is, I identify as a child of God. And then you start thanking God for what he's done. And just going on the journey of hearing your story, I was just like, that just shows when you stand for God in the private moments, you're able to stand boldly for him in the public moments. And I think so many people, especially Christians, it's like, you want to share your faith, but then you get nervous or you get intimidated, you get shy. But like, if God is real to you and you're able to stand for him in those private moments, it will overflow in the public moments. It's like God says, you are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. You don't light a lamp and put it under a stand. You put it on top of the stand so it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine so that they may glorify your Father in heaven. And you live that verse out so beautifully. You do not hide your light. You stand boldly in it and you shine it. And you've done that in private moments and public moments. You're an incredible inspiration to people who see you in the acting world, but you're an incredible inspiration for people who get to know your heart. And so thank you for taking so much time to share your heart on this podcast and to share a little bit more of the backstory. I loved every second of getting to know you, and I'm so grateful for you coming on.
No, bless. No, it was beautiful to be on the show. Thank you. I'll see you again.
Yes, for sure.